Yes, guys. Don't you love the Chasing Green Arrows theme tune? I'm just like, yeah, I love this intro. I hear that music and I'm like, we live, baby. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Chasers. This is our Wednesday special. It's Gianni. It's Bigman Backer, who will be joining us very, very shortly. We got his big questions of the week, but also his team. And we're going to do a little bit of wildcard chat because there's a load of you looking to wildcard. And even if you're not, I think a wildcard draft is really useful because it shows you the sorts of players you might want to look at, even if you're not wildcarding, and how you might protect yourself against some of those that are wildcarding. So we'll have a look at that later in the show. I've not only put together a wildcard draft, but I've done it with like the next couple of weeks worth of transfers as well, which I quite like. And again, I tell you what, there's a few in my WhatsApp group that have seen this team and gone, I weren't going to wildcard. Now maybe I will. So maybe I'll tempt. I'm not trying to tempt you, actually. I don't want to tempt you. I'm personally not wildcarding, but that's another story. Hello to John and Michael, FPL Amateur, Danish, Tiffany, Jamie, Matthew. How are we doing, team? How are we doing? I am very well. I am pretty chilled about game week 28. Obviously, this is a double game week. Double Bournemouth. Bingo. Quiz question in the chat nice and early. Hello, Chai. Hope you're well, mate. Chai, when you want to jump on, you feel free, my brother. What we saying? Right, okay. Where was I? Quiz question. Which two teams away from home, the only two teams in the league away from home, have been so poor defensively that they've not kept a clean sheet on the road this season? Let's see if anyone gets it in the chat. Who hasn't kept a clean sheet on the road this season? There's two teams out there. Two teams in the Premier League that have not kept a single clean sheet. They've also conceded the most goals from any other team away from home. Who are those teams? Let's have a look at some of your guesses, and then I will hit you with some good info. Some good info based on the answer. Luton and Sheffield United. Chai has absolutely got it. Luton and Sheffield United both travel to Bournemouth. Luton and Sheffield United are the two worst teams on the road this season. They've conceded 30 and 29 goals, respectively, on the road, and they've not kept a clean sheet. Does this not mean we need more than Solanke? I think it might do. I think it means we need more than Solanke. But if we're going more than Solanke, the big question is, are Bournemouth mids worth a go? Because Tavernier's been rubbish, but starts every game. Kluivert's a bit of a rotation risk, starts the vast majority of games, but comes off a lot of the hour mark. He scored 4 goals versus Tavernier's 2. I mean, it's slim pickings. Semenyo's the pick, but he's listed as a forward. Big man is in the house. Big man, how are you, my friend?
Hi, Gianni. Thanks for having me. Apologies for being late. I was having some internet issues until 5 minutes ago. I didn't think I was going to be able to make the show, in fact. But I hope the internet issues have been sorted and that I should have no further interruption in the next hour or so. How are you doing? How was your week?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Good game week, I think. I mean, a small green arrow. I protected myself against those that have double Arsenal defence, like you, big man, by having a Zabani 6-pointer and a Doherty 5-pointer. So I was fairly happy with that. And I benched the right player. I was really worried about benching Solanke, but that one came through for me. So yeah, good game week. What about you?
Yeah, your team is actually well set up. You're sort of in one way you're a transfer ahead of the curve. That Stupinan headache sort of gave you an opportunity to get a Bournemouth defender in advance. A lot of people are looking to buy a Bournemouth defender, a Bournemouth midfielder this week, and you don't exactly have the headache. So you're well set up in that regard.
Yeah, I think so. And I can get that third Bournemouth asset. I mean, definitely free hit works for my team. And we'll talk a bit more about chip strategy this show. But in terms of your team, big man, like you committed to a free hit pretty much at the start of last week, maybe even the week before. I did at the end of last week for my transfers this week, last week on Zabani and moving forward. Are you still fairly set on that free hit 29?
I am actually, because it just suits my team, to be very honest. I mean, I see a lot of people who don't really want to use the free hit, who basically want to preserve it for later. But if your team needs it, then why not? I mean, I don't really exactly buy the notion that you shouldn't be buying players from the bad teams to load up on a free hit. That's all the more reason to free hit, because these are players you won't normally own in the first place. So I
Yeah.
don't necessarily mind committing to it. I am almost certain that I will go ahead with it in 29, and it will dictate my transfers this week as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think we should start the show with Bournemouth, and then Luton. We'll talk about those two teams in a bit of detail. I was just saying before you came on, like the two worst defences on the road this season by a country mile are Sheffield United and Luton. 0 clean sheets between them, 59 goals conceded between them away from home. Yet we're only going with Solanke captain, and probably very few I've seen are committing to a Bournemouth midfielder. It's slim pickings because Semenyo's listed as a forward. Are you at all looking at Tavernier or Clivert? There's loads of reasons not to pick them. We know about their minutes being risked. We know about their form of late and their few attacking involvements this season. But we haven't seen them play at home to Sheffield United and Luton, and surely goals in both those games.
Exactly. And the last time they played Sheffield United, they won 3-0. They sort of blew them off the park. So I don't necessarily mind going with a Bournemouth outfielder. I am considering a Bournemouth midfielder, to answer your question.
Oh, yeah.
And selling Foden does seem crazy, but it's one of the paths I'm considering. It's not because I think that Foden has become a bad option. He's in terrific form, but it's just the fact that Bournemouth have a double to attack. I mean, Sheffield United, Luton, as you've said, are the worst defenses in the league by a country mile, especially away from home. And the Bournemouth mids are cheap. Potentially for my team, they allow an easy move to Salah, let's say in game week 30 or 31. Now, that's the big thing. Yeah. That not only are the Bournemouth mids good to attack this week, they allow me to get Salah very easily. But the issue there is about expected minutes, and there's none of the Bournemouth midfielders that really stand out. I mean, Tavernier, Clivert, I mean, they're all right, but I'm not exactly confident that they'll play both games.
Yeah.
I won't be surprised to see, either miss one game at least. So I'm sort of caught between a rock and a very hard place where I'm not really sure where to go. But it is one of the paths I'm considering. The other path I'm considering is to buy double Bournemouth. I'll be buying a defender, I'm pretty certain, irrespective of the path I choose. But in one path I'm buying a goalkeeper, in the other path I'm buying a Bournemouth mid. So it's basically going to be one of those two options. But yeah, I'll be getting Zabarni almost certainly in my team for either Ake or Taylor. So I'll be following you in that regard with the Bournemouth defense.
Yeah, Mr. 90-minute man Zabarni, reliable source for at least one 6-pointer over the two games, I reckon. Yeah, Bournemouth attack is a hard one. I guess I think they will both start both games, but I think we could get 2 lots of 60 from Clivert and a 70 and an 80 from Tavernier. You just don't know. Game state could play a big part there. And I look at them and go, if you get 140 minutes from your Bournemouth midfielder, would you prefer Foden's 90 versus Liverpool or a Bournemouth mids 140 with those two fixtures, plus the extra appearance points you get? What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good question. For me, it's not necessarily about Bournemouth mid versus Foden this week. It's just the easy path to Salah later. It's basically
same for me though. I've got the same dilemma.
Because I think I'll be using Watkins as a make weight irrespective because of Aston Villa's fixtures after game week 30 or 31.
Right.
And at that point, I would like to get, let's say, someone like an Isak, because if Newcastle out a double in 34, then he becomes an option. But let's say if I don't get Tavernier, then getting Salah becomes all that more difficult. So it's a tricky decision, and it's not as simple as one can call it. It's not something in black and white that you say, oh, going for a Bournemouth mid is crazy over keeping Foden. It's something that I'm considering. I'm not exactly set on that transfer. I think I'm 50-50 on both the paths. This is a very tricky week for me, and in fact, a lot of people for transfers. But one thing that I really like is that committing to free hit 29 means that I can just simply forget about everything else and attack this double game. We can attack Bournemouth players. I don't want any Luton players. I'm not considering any. So I'm not exactly in that place where I see a lot of people are, they're even contemplating selling Haaland for someone like a Morris. And I don't really want to be in that situation. I want to keep Haaland for that run after game week 30 as well.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I look at let's just have a look at the Ben Crellin fixture ticker, because the beauty of Bournemouth is not only now with the free hit 29, we can go big on Bournemouth, we can go triple Bournemouth. Maybe if you're not free hit in 29, you'll be very reluctant to do that. But also off the back of the free hit 29, Bournemouth have nice fixtures. Like, we look here, right at the top, third down. Bournemouth have Everton and Palace at home, and then they go to Luton, and they could even have a double game week in 34. So stacking up on Bournemouth makes sense. Your plan for Salah, big man, mine would be, my loose plan for Salah is I probably won't own him in 30 because Salah's going to take my Son spot, right? And in game week 30, I could make that move, but Son has Luton at home.
Yeah.
So while Salah has Brighton at home, I really like that Son fixture. Game week 31, I will then hopefully have 2 free transfers. If I roll in 30, I go Salah to Son, and then I go, I don't know, maybe it's a Watkins replacement, maybe not. Maybe it's a different midfielder. But are you thinking Son becomes Salah in 31? Is that your top line thought process, or are you looking to get Salah earlier than that?
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not looking to selling Son, to be very honest. I mean, I've looked at selling Saka before he plays City in 30. But I mean, truth be told, we're back in a situation where some hard decisions have to be made because Salah will have to come at the cost of either Saka or Son, and I'll make a decision closer to the time. But the main thing is that I want to be flexible and I want to keep all avenues open so that I can get to him in 30 or 31 if needed. Because in 31, I mean, that Sheffield United home fixture looks very, very good.
Yeah.
Now, there's every chance that, he isn't exactly match fit by then, or he gets reduced minutes because he hasn't really played much in recent times. But at least I want to keep that option open and plan for him because that's just the way I like to play and is to plan in advance. So I'll at least keep an option open to get Salah, so that I can, attack game week 30 or 31 if need be. You mentioned the Bournemouth fixtures, Gianni. It's actually pertinent to know that, for example, in game week 30, a lot of us have loaded up on, let's say, the Arsenal defense and the City defense. Arsenal City are playing against each other. A lot of us have Liverpool. Liverpool don't have an idle fixture either. They're playing Brighton at home in game week 30. And getting a Bournemouth defender gets you Everton at home in 30. So that's another plus of getting a Bournemouth defender is not just this week where you get the double, but you also get a better fixture in game week 30 when a lot of your defenders are likely to have a tougher fixture. So I see very little chance of that move backfiring, but let's just hope for the best. I mean, let's talk more about the Bournemouth defense first. Are you set on Zabarni? Let's say if you were picking one this week, I mean, I know you got Zabarni last week, but let's say if you were making that decision again at this point this week, would you still pick Zabarni?
Yeah, I would. Do you know what swung it for me? Zabarni over Senesi came down to sure yellow cards. That was always a risk. But for me, I was like, okay, I know Zabarni's not got goal threat, but I looked at Senesi's minutes and I think he went off the game before last. I think he went off around 70 minutes. So I was like, oh, he clearly went off injured, which no one spoke about. No one spoke about this. Everyone was 8 yellow cards. No one spoke about the fact that Senesi went off at 79 minutes or whatever it was. He's also had a few early subs this season. Like, he has picked up some knocks. He has had some injuries. Zabarni has played 90 every single week. Then I also looked not at bonus points because Senesi had some goals and assists. His bonus points were higher, but I just looked at BPS. So like your standard BPS, like your underlying BPS, your baseline BPS, Zabarni's also higher than Senesi. So again, if they keep a clean sheet and neither score, there's a good chance Zabarni outperforms Senesi in bonus points. So for me, it was a no-brainer. This week, I'd absolutely go to Zabarni again. I am maybe buying double Bournemouth defence. Like, I'm either buying Kluivert or Kerkez this week because I want a third Bournemouth player. And if I buy Kerkez, it gives me a better starter in game week 30 because I can bench Gabriel and I can play double Bournemouth defence for Everton and maybe even for Crystal Palace. Like, Bournemouth aren't some elite defence all of a sudden. They're not bad at home. But I'm happy playing them in those games. It also then gives me triple Bournemouth for game week 28 and maybe for the double. So I think, yeah, I'm 50-50 on Kluivert or Kerkez. And a lot of that for me comes down to if I'm buying Kluivert, I'm selling De Bruyne. And I just don't know if I'm ready to sell De Bruyne. And I want to see him in action tonight before I make that call.
Yeah, I mean, Bournemouth aren't an elite defense, but they're a decent defense, especially in recent times. You look at their numbers over the past, let's say, 10, 12 game weeks. They're only behind Arsenal and Man City when it comes to expected goals conceded. So they're doing all right in terms of expected goals conceded. Are you not considering Neto at all? Because Neto is someone I have in my mind as a potential option.
I like Neto a lot, and I had looked at it. The rotation between Neto and Areola is quite good. But also, I've got Dubravka, and the rotation between Dubravka and Areola at the moment is also very good. So one option for me is I could sell Dubravka, and I think it works out quite nicely with Neto and Areola. I think the 2 weeks, Neto is a bad game. Maybe it's 32, 33. West Ham have a good game. Yeah, there we go. Wolves and Fulham. But I think I prefer that defender because then it means I can go double Bournemouth defence in 30, which at the moment, my bench in game week 30 for defenders looks dreadful. I've got like Gabriel, Doherty. It's a mess. But having a Cherries extra defender would be a good thing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'm personally considering in my second path, I'm considering selling Areola for Neto.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, because Newcastle have a potential double in 34, and I might not wildcard by then. I might sort of wildcard after it. So I sort of want to keep Dubravka, which is why if I sell one, I think I'll sell Areola. But it's a tricky one. I do think in isolation, if we were talking about the Bournemouth defense and we were comparing the defenders, I think the best pick is actually Neto because he has the whole potential like we saw this week. He makes plenty of saves. He is right up there when it comes to bonus points. So ideally, if I was picking one, I would go with Neto. But let's say if I was getting a defender, I think Zabarni is the pick. I sort of agree with you. He's completely nailed. He's played 90 minutes. If someone like myself is considering wildcarding late, let's say around game week 35, 36, then Zabarni is the pick because you just set and forget him in the defense. He's just a very nailed option. You don't exactly have to worry about any kind of rotation, which might be the case with some of the fullbacks, even though it's sort of unlikely as well. But at this point in time, I'd sort of also like to mention that I see a few people picking the Bournemouth fullbacks because of attacking threat. Their attacking threat is actually very overrated. Their underlying data isn't good at all. It's dreadful. Their XGI per 90 is under 0.1. So, I mean, you're just hoping that you get lucky with an attacking run. I mean, I think there's a similar chance of a Zabarni goal or an assist from a set play as well. So I would just go with the guy who's most nailed, and I think you've made the right decision picking Zabarni, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I think so. Let's move away then from the ticker and answer Edley's question. Super chat. This will be funny, bro. Which site is good for predicted points, player comparisons? Now you're going to get a difference of opinion here, Edley. I work with Fantasy Football Scout. Bigman works with Fantasy Football Hub. Do you work with Draft Hound as well? No, not at the moment.
No. I'm just working with Hub.
Oh, mate, you're missing a trick there. It's not like you.
So yeah, I'm all Team Hub, but I assume Gianni will have a different answer.
Yeah, definitely Scout for me. But look, both are clearly very good. So I actually know a lot of people in FPL that are signed up to 2, if not all 3, in terms of membership platforms. And when I look at individual YouTubers or patrons, and I include myself and my own channel members on the Gianni Bigman YouTube show, the value I give in terms of being a member probably isn't as good as the value you would get from one of those 3. So what I would say is if you are looking to spend extra on FPL content, go and subscribe to the likes of Fantasy Football Scout and Hub and Draft Hound, probably over the individual creators, and I include myself in that. But if you want to sign up to the Gianni Bigman membership channel, then I do have a WhatsApp group for which I would love you to join. So do check that out too.
Nice plug, Gianni.
Yeah. Where were we? We're going to talk Luton as well. I think we've covered Bournemouth quite well. Just final note on Bournemouth. Kirkez isn't absolutely as nailed as Zarbani, but you should be pretty safe for the remainder.
I mean, I think both the fullbacks, even Smith, should be fine.
Yeah, should be. Although I don't know if we know about Kelly's return from injury, but yeah, Smith should be fine too. And Smith, the fullbacks give you a little bit more in terms of attacking threat. What about Luton though, big man? We aren't really looking at Luton because we're not trying to cover game week 29, as many will be looking to cover. If we were ranking Luton, would you be with me on Doherty number 1, probably Morris number 2, and maybe a Kaminsky or a Barkley at 3?
Yeah, I think I would probably put Morris at the top in terms of expected points. But the problem is that you have to sell someone like a Haaland to get to him, which is something which is very, very tricky. And that's something which I'm not personally doing. But yeah, getting someone like a Doherty is easier because there are plenty of slots in defense. And obviously Kaminsky is is a good option as well. But I assume a lot of people won't buy Kaminsky this week, because let's say if they're buying a goalkeeper this week, they'll likely go with Neto, right? And I assume, again, there are a lot of assumptions to make, because there's so many different scenarios. If someone is not free hitting in 29, then that specific person might not sell Areola like we are, like I am. At least in my case, I'm considering it. So it depends, right? So Kaminsky only becomes an option if you are not free hitting in 29, and if you're selling a goalkeeper. But even then, I don't think a lot of people will be comfortable taking a hit for Luton defender this week. So I don't think, like, for example, if someone doesn't own Doughty or Kaminsky, I highly doubt a lot of people will be looking to buy them for hits this week.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. Just a note on Doughty. Like, I started him over the weekend. I knew he was going to concede. You don't play a Luton defender for clean sheets, but it was really unlucky. He only got one bonus. It was really unlucky not to get two. Really close to Morris.
I think
missed a big chance at the end.
I think you should be lucky that he got. I think you should be lucky that you should consider yourself fortunate and lucky that you got away with a 5-pointer. I mean, playing a defender, Luton defender, no matter how attacking he is, at home to Aston Villa is a recipe for disaster.
He's not a defender, mate.
I mean, he's even if you sort of are playing him for the attacking threat, I still think 5 points is more than what you'd expect against Aston Villa.
You're right.
To be very honest, I would have expected around 2 or 3.
I was very
exactly.
Happy
so I don't think. Exactly.
But can I tell you what happened in the last minute, big man? Let me tell you what happened in the last minute, right? I'm watching the game and I go, oh, he's got an assist. Going into like 5 minutes left of the game, Doughty has another free kick, right? He absolutely puts it on a sixpence for Morris, who hits it clean on the volley and it just whistles past the post. So firstly, I was like, oh, nearly got an assist there. But then I was like, doesn't matter too much. I've just seen Morris miss a big chance and Doughty create a big chance. That's going to swing the bonus, because at the time, Morris was on 2, Doughty on 1,
I saw that.
And there was one between.
It didn't count as
it was given offside.
It was given offside, yeah, exactly. So it didn't make any big difference to the score. But yeah, as you can see, I was fairly unhappy with the 5 points for Doughty this week as a non-owner. But yeah, I mean, fair enough.
I nearly started Taylor.
To be very honest, you haven't really had any sort of luck with Doughty since you've got him. He's been a total disaster. I remember, I think you got him before that home fixture against Sheffield United, and they lost that game 3-0 or 3-1, something like that.
9 chances created or something.
Yeah, exactly. So fair play. I guess you've made up on some of those lost points.
Yeah, I hope so. But I do like Doughty for the double. I think we'll get an attacking return in one of the 2 fixtures. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Do hit that like and subscribe. Jason has a question. Is it worth Watkins or Haaland out? Oh, you need if you've still got your triple captainship, I do think this is the week, so it's worth going. You've got Morris from last week and you are on free hit 29. If you're on free hit 29, you're going to make sure you cover Watkins that week. Oh, what do you reckon, big man?
I would definitely triple captain Solanke if I had the option available. I don't think you'll get a better fixture run before the end of the season. And he's completely nailed on penalties. I mean, in form, you would just go with him. And I mean, deciding who to sell between Haaland and Watkins is very, very tricky. It depends on the paths you take to get, let's say, if you're selling Haaland, do you get him back in 30 to have a route back to him, or you're just saying that you won't get him back? Because this is the tricky part. I would want Haaland back after 30 for sure.
Definitely.
That's the tricky part. So I guess in that way, it's sort of easier to sell Watkins, because, a lot of us Watkins owners will be looking to sell him in 30 or 31 anyway. But again, it's tricky because I fancy Watkins at home to Spurs this week. It's very tricky.
It's a very good fixture for Watkins this week.
I would
maybe sell Haaland, but make sure you got a route back. I don't know.
Exactly, Gianni. The thing is, a lot of people won't be selling Watkins because, let's say, if the for example, if the guy who asked me the question, if he is not free hitting in 29, then I guess he should hold Watkins, because Watkins is probably one of the standout captains that week.
Yeah, although I think he might be free hitting in 29. I think that's what he said. He was free hitting in 29. Free hit 29 and no wild card. Yeah, so he is free hitting. So you'll have Watkins in 29.
Yeah, in that case, why who is he selling Haaland and Watkins for? If he's free hitting in
Solanke
29,
triple
he shouldn't be
cap.
getting.
Yeah,
Who's
because you
this?
don't use.
I would rather upgrade the third striker.
You could. It is worth noting there's going to be very good triple captain options in 37 and some good ones in 34. Depending on your other chip strategy. Like, do look ahead at that Ben Crellin planner, which we showed earlier, but you're going to get doubles from the likes of Haaland and Salah in 37, very likely. So do note that you don't have to go triple captain Solanke. And if you're not going triple captain Solanke, maybe you can get away with not buying him. But let's talk about Morris owners, because there's a lot jumping on Morris this week that are dead ending in 30, and that's selling Haaland. What do you make of that, big man? Because Haaland, for me, is someone I look at the fixtures and go, yeah, sure, it's Liverpool, and then it's a blank, and then it's Arsenal. And maybe the Arsenal game is going to be tighter, but that Liverpool game could be, like when Chelsea played City this season, was it 4-4? Like Liverpool City could be a 4-4. It could be a 3-4. I would be very uncomfortable selling Haaland for Morris.
I mean, so would I. But I can see why people are doing it. It's obviously very, very risky, but I see the merit to it. But again, this is one of the reasons why I'm free hitting in 29, so that I don't have to make this uncomfortable decision. Because, I mean, irrespective of fixture, I mean, Haaland can go big in any game. I won't be surprised even if he braced against Arsenal, to be very honest, in 30. I think that's a good fixture. City at home, I always back, irrespective of the opponent. Exactly. So I always back them, irrespective of opponent. So it's a very uncomfortable position to be in. But if you fancy Morris, then fair enough. I can't really fault it.
Yeah.
Because you're getting like 2 extra fixtures, right? In 28, 29. That's the logic behind it.
Yeah. Everyone that's doing that is not free hitting in 29. Therefore, it's 3 games versus 1 for them, and therefore you kind of see the argument. Let's have a quick look then at, before we see our teams, a wildcard team that I wanted to show Big Man. So I've put this together, and I want your input, and let's critique it. Let's do the positives and the negatives. I am not wildcarding, but this is just a draft I put together. So straight away, the team we have here, just to give you top line, it's going to have 4 players playing twice in game week 28, which I think is a good 4. Maybe not the best 4, like doesn't have Morris, but it has Barkley, it's got Doherty, and then it's got Neto and Solanke, right? We'll move forward over the next 4 weeks. Go on.
Yeah. I assume you are, let's say this draft assumes that you're not free hitting in 29.
Exactly. And I was thinking,
exactly,
I could put together 2 wildcard teams, one which includes free hit and one which doesn't in 29. But I thought, actually, if you're wildcarding in 28, for me, if you're wildcarding in 28, you shouldn't be free hitting in 29 as well. I don't believe you should use 2 of your chips in 28 and 29 when there's all the doubles to come. So look, this is a way of also trying to navigate 29 and also get to what I think will be a fairly template team in 31. So before we give the pros and cons, let me just whistle through it. So 4 players playing twice in 29. 28. Then in game week 29, you make 1 simple transfer, which is Solanke out to Meniz. I know. Meniz is in there, but you're going to need that money, and I'll tell you why in a sec. So Meniz is in, and then you get 10 players playing in the blank game week. So it's a good 10. Not the optimal 10, but a good 10. It does include a back 4. You'd like to see a Tony in there, but you can't have everything. And then coming into game week 30, where Arsenal and Man City play each other, again, you're pretty well set because you've only got Haaland and you only have Saka in your 11. You're benching Gabriel and you've got the likes of Murillo, who, by the way, has a good fixture in 30 and some good-looking games. And Nuno's been pretty good at the back since he's come in at Forest. And you've got, Maddison and Son for Luton at home. Lovely, triple Spurs still. And then you get to game week 31, and this is your time to offload some Spurs players. And this is your time to make sure you're matching wildcarders. So you have 2 free transfers, and you go Maddison out to Salah. Remember, you've got a ton of money because you sold Solanke to Meniz. And then you go double Arsenal defence. Again, I've sold a Doji here for Saliba. So this team we see now on screen in 31, it's not the team everyone's going to wildcard to, but it ain't far off. And I've got there with 0 hits. I've got there with 4 players playing twice in 28. And I've got there with a good 10 playing in game week 29. What do you think of that, big man? I mean, there's no Foden. He's a clear miss.
I don't think I'd be buying Foden on a wildcard if I was wildcarding this week. I think you can sort of afford to go without, again, because of the because of the fixtures for City. They're blanking next week.
Yeah.
This week, it's a tough fixture. Again, in 30, not exactly ideal. So I don't think it's a huge miss, to be very honest. I don't think he makes the optimal 5 midfielders this week if I was wildcarding either.
Fair.
What
Yeah.
about Tony, though? I think Tony is the
Yeah.
striker to have in 29, and he's the big miss.
He
So
is. And you just
what are your
can't fit him
plans?
in. You could go without
Exactly.
Watkins and go Tony, but again, I don't think you want to sell Watkins right now.
How about having Tony in place and using that Haaland cash to get Haaland back later?
Yeah, that could work. That could work. But then I
That could
do
work because it gives
feel
you an
like
extra
you're
fixture.
going. Would you be up for going completely no City for that Liverpool game?
I mean, it's
Let's
tricky.
see how they get on
It's
tonight. I
extremely
mean, if
tricky,
they,
but
yeah,
it's
they're going to go
extremely
score
tricky,
5
but
again tonight, and you're like, this team is flying at the moment. Doesn't matter who they're playing, and I'm like, oh, Liverpool at the back haven't been great. It is at Anfield, but to back against Haaland and Foden and not have either of them for a couple of weeks it feels really high risk. But maybe if you're wildcarding, you just go for it.
yeah, exactly. That's a tricky part. But I mean, apart from that, I mean, I think I would probably go with Tony over Haaland and use that cash later.
Yeah.
I think the midfield more or less picks itself.
It does.
I think you've nailed it. Maybe someone other than Mario, someone like an Udogie, probably works better. Gives you an extra Spurs as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, the keepers are. I think they kind of fix themselves as well. I mean, you can get Flecken over Areola. I think that's a change I would make because Flecken and Neto rotate really well as well.
Nice.
But apart from that, I can't really fault it. I think I would definitely have Saka, Saliba, Gabriel, Palmer again. Palmer, I think, will be very, very useful, especially after game week 30. A lot of people who wildcard in 31 will definitely have Palmer because of the likely Chelsea double that will happen later, as well as their fixtures. Yeah, I mean, there's not much to debate, really. I think the only changes I would make are Tony and Flecken maybe, and maybe have Udogie over Murillo. If Porro's fit, then Porro. But yeah, the rest sort of picks itself. Aston Villa, again, decent defense, good fixtures, confirmed fixture next week.
Yeah,
good.
Nice. Yeah, and I've seen a lot wildcarding going really big on the doublers, like going 3 Luton, 3 Bournemouth. If you do that, just question how your team then matches up to what will be a very strong template in 30-31. And I think you might have a few issues. I think 4 is a good balance.
What about Morris versus Muniz?
Yeah, and that's definitely one you could make. I think Muniz is a little bit underrated, but definitely if you wanted immediate returns. The problem is that Muniz slot isn't Muniz from 28. It's Solanke, and Solanke then becomes Muniz. So yeah, it could be Haaland instead of Morris, and then you have Solanke, but then you don't have Tony. It's tough. Like there's more than 3 good forwards at the moment that we all want. There's 5 or 6, and you've got to make compromises. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm enjoying seeing people's wildcard drafts. The more and more I look at it, though, I'm like, yeah, there's probably not a huge need for it. And for me, like, I like the idea of the 2 chip strategies that dead ends in 30 and wildcards in 31, or the one me and Bigman are on, which free hits in 29 and then dead ends in 34 and wildcards in 35 or 36. I think I prefer both of those to wildcard now. I don't think wildcard now is a bad strategy, and it's of course team dependent. And I do think there are gains to be made from Bournemouth this week. I think we'll see goals, and actually the bookies have Bournemouth to score 2+ goals. I think in both fixtures, right, big man?
They do.
Yeah.
Especially in the one against Sheffield, they're above 2 goals again, which brings me to the point of a Bournemouth mid, right? Yeah. That's the tricky thing. And one thing that you must have noticed, a lot of people in this draft, is that this does not have a Bournemouth player apart from Neto. I mean, Neto can easily be rotated.
Yeah,
I think
Solanke.
Yeah, again, Solanke. I mean, I completely forgot Solanke. I would definitely have Solanke over Muniz, Gianni, simply because the captaincy this week, even if it's a transfer out later.
Yeah, this team is actually not the wildcard team. This is the team after a week. So I don't know if we can go back to the first slide, which does include Solanke. Just want to make that very clear. I would be wildcarding Solanke in everyone.
Exactly. So with this team, I think the only miss is the Bournemouth mid or the Bournemouth defender. And again, I think it makes sense not to pick them if you were avoiding the free hit 29.
Yeah.
Because again, you sort of have to choose your battles, and you can't go all in on Bournemouth if you're not free hitting in 29. So yeah, overall it's a good team. I've sort of suggested a few changes. Madison is fine as well. It's a good team overall. Can't really fault it as much.
Well, speaking of good teams, let's look at our teams. Shout out, by the way, FPL team. If you want to plan your teams ahead, you just put your code in, your unique team code into FPL team, and you can fiddle about with it. And it's always good fun to plan ahead. Obviously, things happen, and we know the planned transfers Gianni suggested there for the next 4 weeks probably go up in smoke by an injury, a suspension, a new player of the month. It's a dangerous game to always plan ahead, but nice to have it, but still know you can remain flexible. But big man, look, we're here to look at your team. I mean, you're fairly well set. Like, yeah, Ake looks like a sell, but other than that, like, there's no standout players to you need to ship. What's your take on, before we go through it, just give us your take on Spurs and Richarlison, because your original plan when you had the likes of Richarlison may have been to go into game week 29 without using a free hit, and you do have triple Spurs in place.
I mean, I was leaning towards free hitting then anyway, but the Richarlison news was just the final nail in the coffin, and it just cemented the free hit, to be very honest. Apart from that, with this team, I mean, Richarlison, Potter, I'm just forgetting that I own, and I'll hopefully get them back in 30 when they're playing Luton at home. I think that's a fixture where my triple Spurs could do really well in, so I'm just gonna keep them on the bench. The transfers that I'm looking to make, I think I'll almost certainly be selling one of Taylor or Ake for Zabarni, because, as mentioned earlier, I think he's the Bournemouth defender to get. And again, he covers me well in game week 30, where Saliba and Gabriel are playing Manchester City. The other transfer is the one which is more tricky, and which is one which I'm not sure about. Now, I could either do Areola to Neto to triple up on Bournemouth, or alternatively, I could do Foden to, let's say, Kluivert or Tavernier to get Salah later. Now, I don't really think there's much between Tavernier and Kluivert, to be very honest, and I think I might as well go with Kluivert because he's like $1 million cheaper.
That's my take. But and a better goal threat.
Yeah, his underlying data. I mean, the underlying data more or less is similar, but yeah, Kluivert does have the slightly better goal threat numbers. So I might as well go with Kluivert to get Salah later. That's what I'm thinking, but I'm really not sure with which path I'm going to take. I mean, there are three options basically: Tavernier, Kluivert, and the Neto. But I'm almost certainly going to double up on Bournemouth, irrespective of what I do. What would you do?
Is a chance you would take a hit and go to Bournemouth and go triple Bournemouth, or not? Is that off the cards?
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm definitely going to take a hit and go triple Bournemouth. I will definitely have. I will definitely have Zabarni plus one of Neto or Tavernier or Kluivert. So I'm definitely taking a hit to get triple Bournemouth. That's
I didn't realize you had money in the bank as well, 1.3. So you don't, because I started this by saying Ake's a sell, but you can actually go Taylor to Zabarni. Yeah. I still wonder if Ake then might be worth holding, knowing... I don't think I would... You know my thoughts on Foden, and I know I'm blinkered by it. By the way, I'm probably benching Foden this week. Like, full disclosure. Could I sell Foden? I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think I could sell Foden for a Bournemouth mid. I just don't think I could do it. But I'm talking about possibly benching Foden, and I'm talking about possibly selling De Bruyne for a Bournemouth mid. I think I probably end up going safe with double Bournemouth defence, which again might be just the route for you, big man. You go Neto and Zabarni. You keep the good players from good teams in the attacking positions. Yeah, I think that's probably what I would do. I think that's probably what I will do. End up with double Bournemouth defence plus Solanke.
It does make the route to Salah a bit more complicated though, because it's basically the difference. I'll tell you what. It's basically the difference between someone like a Mateta and Isak in game week 31. Because in game week 31, I'll be selling Watkins to fund Salah, right? So let's say if I get a cheap mid, let's say a Tavernier or a Kluivert, then I can get Isak in for Watkins, right? If I don't, and if I do the Neto transfer, then I will probably have to go with someone like a Mateta or Calvert-Lewin. That does not inspire me with. that does not inspire me with any kind of confidence.
So
That's the issue.
I'm 0.1 short of Calvert-Lewin if I wanted that move, because he is the standout sort of below 6 million, because Everton will probably have the double game week in 34.
Is he even nailed? I mean, I'm not even sure
not
he's
now.
nailed. Yeah,
Not
exactly.
now.
He's not
We
even
saw
nailed.
Beto come in and start and miss the pen, but score a good goal.
Exactly.
So he's not. Mateta is an interesting one. Since the new manager's come in, Mateta he's actually played 90 in the last 4 weeks, right? So 90, 90, 90, 90. So Mateta's probably the one. He's 1% owned. He's 4.9 million. If we're bringing him in around game week 31, it's
and
for
there's a
Bournemouth
chance
away.
that Palace double. There's a healthy chance that Palace double.
Yeah, they do have City and Liverpool in 32 and 33, but both of us, I think, are going to get to the point where we're in need of not an obvious bench player, but not having a benching dilemma every week. I don't mind having a 4.9 striker on the bench and then playing him in the double. And Mateta gives us that, but so would Tavernier and so would Kluivert. You know, if we're buying these players, yes, we're playing them this week, but then we're not going to play them every week, because look at the 7 other attackers we've got.
I agree. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky decision, which is why I'm saying, I mean, there are pros and cons to each decision. And what are your thoughts on Isak, actually? Because Newcastle's fixtures from game week 30 onwards are really good. And Wilson isn't exactly in the picture. He's injured for a while. So Isak could be good pick.
Good, could be. And there's no European football for Newcastle, obviously. And with that, you don't get the fixture congestion. And the fixture congestion is the biggest concern when you play it by someone like Isak. Remember the end of last season, it was like, oh, will he, won't he, every week. And some out there went Wilson, most went Isak, and it was Wilson that turned up. FPL Chai in the chat says, Mateta, what a legend, of course. I thought of you straight away, Chai, when I was thinking.
There's a slight issue, though, with Isak. I'm noticing that he's getting subbed around the 65, 70 minute mark every week.
He's not fit. I don't think. Like, there's always that doubt going late into a game. Is he going to pull a hamstring? Is he injured?
The worst part could be, if he's not fit, the worst part could be that we potentially plan for to buy him in game week 30 or 31, and he's not an option at that point. So you sort of have to revert back to plan 1, which is what I'm basically confused between. I mean, knowing myself, I think I will, let's say, if I had to, sort of pick which way I would go, I think I would probably keep all doors open and be as flexible as possible. So I think I will probably do Foden to a Bournemouth mid, and one of the defenders to Zabarni.
Yeah, the defender to Zabarni makes sense. And the problem with the Neto transfer, for me, I don't know if Dubravka out or Areola out, either of them, for Neto is worth the hit. Like, I don't mind that as a free transfer. But for a hit, does Neto outscore by 4 points moving forward? I'm not sure he does. Like, you've got good rotation between Areola and Dubravka already.
Okay, I mean, on the contrary, do you think a Bournemouth midfielder outscores Foden by 4 points this week?
No, but he
Exactly
enables Salah. He enables Salah easily.
Yeah, it makes it easier, at least, to get to Salah. I mean, who knows? By game week 30, 31, we might have an easier route to Salah anyway. If, let's say, one of the mids, let's say Son, Foden, Saka, was to get injured, but it's very, very tricky.
So certainly taking a hit, definitely buying double Bournemouth. The question is, it's Neto or Kluivert, I think, for you. And
yeah, and I think, sort of judging by your assessment, I think you would probably side with the Kluivert and Zabarni transfer.
I think I would.
Yeah. Okay, well, coming to the Bournemouth midfielders, why Kluivert over Tavernier? I mean, let's talk about the Bournemouth mids in detail. Let's cover them. You say the Kluivert has extra million, basically. That's the main argument, right? Because Tavernier on the left isn't as good.
No,
on the right, he has more is more of a goal threat on the right, but the right spot is cemented by Semenyo. I mean, it would have been amazing if Semenyo would have been a midfielder. It would have been so easier to get to, and he's
4.5
playing so well, and he is nailed. So everyone would have him if he was a midfielder. But the decision is made trickier because all these guys aren't exactly nailed to play both games. Kluivert has played a maximum of 72, 73 minute in a single game this season, so he's always prone to getting subbed early as well. So all
I'd say about Kluivert, right? I've been watching Bournemouth closely for the last month, because I've known I'm going to want to stack up on them. And for the last month, I've been thinking I'll probably be bringing Tavernier in. I then see how he's played in the last month, and boy, is this guy out of form. Like, he's still starting because he's one of Ariola's favourites. He's still starting because he's the set piece guy in the team, and Ariola wants someone that's got very good delivery, which he has. But in terms of in front of goal, he doesn't offer a huge amount, hasn't been offering a huge amount, and he's forced out on the left because in the last month, who's been their best player? Semenyo. Semenyo likes playing on the right, therefore he's got that position on lock. Kluivert, on the other hand, he's not now to start every week, although of late, and I'd say against Burnley, he had one of his better games, if not his best game. Like, he took his goal well, he fizzed a couple of nice passes in terms of like key passes. Yes, he'll always come off because the likes of Billing and Scott are on the bench, and they're good players that Iraola also likes and give you something different. Kluivert and Tavernier will both start both games. Tavernier will probably get 150, 160 minutes, and Kluivert will probably get 120, 130. I still am not sold by either of them because they're not 90-minute men.
I think I agree. It's unconvincing, but it's a compromise you sort of have to make to A, attack the double this week, and B, to get to Salah later, basically.
Yeah. I might limit myself in terms of routes back to Salah. And I might therefore go, I'm keeping triple City attack. By the way, I'll end up benching one of them because I can't bench Palmer this week. So, and my 8 attackers are all good. So I'm going to have to probably bench De Bruyne or Foden, play double City attack, and then go big on Bournemouth at the back, which also means if I go for, say, Kirkes, also means I'm benching Gabriel this week, which I'm not overly comfortable with. But in a single game week against Brentford, Tony pops up with a goal. Why not? Like, Gabriel could very easily get 2 points this week. So it's a really difficult decision for me. Big man, what would you do in my shoes? I mean, triple City attack feels too heavy, but knowing I'm benching one of them, you think still buy a Kluivert? Because if I buy Kluivert, let's say I sell De Bruyne for Kluivert, I've still got a bench. I think
De Bruyne could be your easy make weight for Salah later. That's the good thing about owning him. He's an easy make weight for Salah later. So it depends on how you get to Salah from De Bruyne. How many funds do you need to get there?
Well, it means a downgrade for Son or Watkins.
Yeah, Watkins will go. I think Watkins with his fixtures will likely go in 31. I mean, can you do that transfer with Isak though?
No, I don't think so. That's De Bruyne up to Salah is like an extra. Let me just try that. I've not actually looked. I was originally thinking it would be Son out for Salah, but no, De Bruyne is more likely. So yeah, if De Bruyne comes out my team and Salah goes in, add player. Sorry, this is live. Watkins out allows me 7 million, and Isak costs just more than that, right? 7.5.
Isak is what, 7.5? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's without my upgrade of, say, a Taylor or a Bell to Kirkes, which again gives me 0.5 short. So it'd be about 1 million short. Let's go Isak. But there'll be other options, and we will know, we should add, by game week 30, 31, when we're making these choices of how we get Salah in our team, we will know the very likely scenarios of double game weeks 34, which is really important for those that are dead ending to 35, 36. So when me and Big Man are shopping for a Watkins replacement, almost certainly we'll be looking at in 31 going, Newcastle, Man United, whoever are likely to double in 34. Therefore, I will buy Mateta or I will buy Isak. Hoyland.
Gianni, what are the realistic transfer options for you? I mean, in terms of where you're at right now, in terms of the pecking order.
I've got De Bruyne to Kluivert. I've got Bell to Kirkes. And I've got Dubravka to Neto. They're my 3 options. If I rank them, I think I'm most likely to do Bell to Kirkes. It gives me a better team in 31.
But Bell to Kirkes means that you're benching a City mid this week, right?
Yeah. I'm benching a City mid in any scenario.
Yeah, you are.
Because I'm effectively selling a City mid or benching a City mid in any scenario. I can't bench Palmer, Saka, Son, or Watkins, so it has to be a City mid. And again, I'll be looking at minutes tonight and see how they play tonight. If De Bruyne gets rested tonight, I'm going to really struggle to sell him ahead of Liverpool.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Because you have double Bournemouth defense at the moment. Your defense in 30 will will not look for pretty at all. So I can see the Kirk's appeal with your transfer.
The problem with Kirkes, it also means benching Gabriel this week. But if I go and buy Neto, I mean, I could buy Neto. Neto is also a very good option for me. It just gives me a slightly weaker team in 30 because my defense in 30 is shot. I don't want to have to start Taylor, but I may have to do that in 30. Gabriel plays Man City away. If I buy Neto, yeah, maybe I have a slightly better team this week because I think Neto can. Neto means it's pretty much if I buy Kirkes, I'm starting Areola. If I buy Neto, I'm starting Gabriel. Who would you prefer, Areola or Gabriel? Probably Gabriel, right? This week.
Yeah, probably
tough one. What would you do in my shoes?
It is.
I mean,
Areola hasn't served me well at all this season. I mean, whenever I've trusted the guy, he's not done well for me.
Burnley were actually quite good against Bournemouth in attack. Like Burnley are probably going to score against West Ham.
Burnley have been decent this season, to be very honest. They've played all right, but it's just that they don't have any cutting edge. I mean, they're not as bad as someone like a Sheffield, but they just don't have that quality up front. They look all right in parts, but they're not as bad as the table
suggests. Good football team.
Good.
Out football West Ham.
So bad. Sheffield are embarrassingly bad. I mean, Sheffield are just all over the place.
Yeah, it's a tough one. What would you do? Go on. Given those three scenarios. Neto in for Areola, Kirkes in for Dubravka, Kirkes in for Bell.
I won't do De Bruyne. I won't do De Bruyne to Kluivert because I would keep De Bruyne so that he could be my Salah make-weight. He would be just a good cash cow to get to Salah later. Yeah. So I won't make things difficult for myself.
I could sell Foden to Kluivert though. It's a Man City mid to Kluivert. It's an option, but I'm not selling Foden. No, that's not a scenario. I shouldn't even offer that. I'm not doing that. That's just not. I can't.
Yeah, that's fine. I think you have to probably improve your defense. I agree with your Kirkes transfer.
Yeah, you reckon?
Your defense is all over the place. I mean, you can't really play Doughty against Spurs in 30. It's just not on. I mean, you can't really play Taylor either. You can't play Bell. So I think your hand is forced, if I'm being honest. Exactly.
And double that new Bournemouth defense is needed for me in 30 against Devon.
And Gianni, not just 30, in 31, Luton are playing Arsenal away. You can't play these guys. You need a defender. Not just in 30, but in 31. I mean, you don't have a choice. It's like, why are you asking me? You don't have a choice. I mean, you can't just roll with Gabriel and Zabarni in 30 and 31. And even in 30, Gabriel has City away. So,
mate, I'd play Doughty. I like Doughty. I like Doughty against Spurs.
Do you like Doughty away to Spurs?
Oh. Yeah, you'll get an assist.
No chance you're doing that. No chance you're going to do that.
Create 9 chances.
I can't see that happening. No chance.
I think it's going to have to be Kirkes in. It's going to have to be Kirkes in. I appreciate that, though. Thank you, man. Captaincy this week, we don't need to discuss it, do we? We don't need to discuss captaincy. We're all the world and their dog are going.
Yeah, so it's a waste of time. Exactly. Yeah. It's just as nailed as you can be.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. Guys, thank you so much for your input in the chat. We've been reading every comment, even the ones that don't make it onto screen or we don't acknowledge. Trust me, we read. So thank you so much for your input.
Gianni, I really like this show. It was freestyle, but thank you so much for
it's fun.
Being a very good host. You asked the right questions. We had a really engaging discussion. Thank you for being such a great host. And I hope you get a green arrow this week, but I still hope I get more points than you.
There we go. You had to get that bit in. Well, look, with you taking a 4-point hit and us having fairly similar teams, if you get the wrong triple Bournemouth and I get the right, it might be the difference between a Kirkes and a Kluivert. But let's see. Maybe I start to make some gains this week, but we'll see. The fact we're on the same chip strategy, it's going to be tough for me to catch you now.
Yeah, I mean, that 38-point lead could be in danger of being reduced to 34 or 30. 34. But let's see, man. I mean, to be very honest, I mean, in the doubles, 30 points is nothing to catch up. It's
true,
literally nothing. Even if you have the same chip strategy, it does not make a difference because let's say I'm sure you'll go different on the wildcard. There will be 2 or 3 picks which will be different.
Timo Werner will be in my free hit. He won't be in yours.
You're looking at Werner.
Free hit.
I'm looking. I mean, that's a nice idea. I mean, I haven't really thought of my free hit team. I think Maddison and Son pretty much pick themselves.
They do, yeah.
And the third will be between Werner and Porro. if
Yeah.
Porro's fit.
Yeah. If
But
we're assuming
I don't think,
Richarlison's out. Yeah.
yeah, which is a fair assumption to make at this point.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. After the international break, more likely. I look forward to that. Yeah, you're right. Same chip strategy doesn't mean same points, because our wild cards and our free hits, I think, will be fairly different, which will be fun. I can't wait for that, and we'll be revealing our free hits in a couple of weeks' time. That'll be good. Sorry, next week. Next week's free hit 29. Yeah, this time next week we'll be showing our free hit teams. That'll be fun.
Exactly.
Good stuff. All right then, guys. Well, look, Friday's stream will all be about you guys. We'll be answering loads of questions, me and Dean. So make sure you come by on Friday at 1 p.m. But for now, he's been Bigman, I've been Gianni, and we've been chasing green arrows. See you later.